She always told herself the same thing. It's not enough to matter. 1%. A few dollars. Change. She worked retail. Long hours on her feet, folding clothes, smiling at customers, standing under bright lights while worrying about bills she couldn't escape. Saving money felt like a luxury for people who earned more, knew more, had more. So she waited. She waited to earn more. She waited to feel ready. She waited for the right moment to start. That moment never came. Until she learned one quiet rule that didn't ask for motivation, discipline, or confidence. It only asked her to begin. Before we continue, like, subscribe, and share. She always told herself the same thing. It's not enough to matter. 1%. A few dollars. Change. She worked retail. Long hours on her feet, folding clothes, smiling at customers, standing under bright lights while worrying about bills she couldn't escape. Saving money felt like a luxury for people who earned more, knew more, had more. So she waited. She waited to earn more. She waited to feel ready. She waited for the right moment to start. That moment never came. Until she learned one quiet rule that didn't ask for motivation, discipline, or confidence. It only asked her to begin. Before we continue, like, subscribe, and share this video. It helps this message reach people who feel stuck because they think they're starting too small. Now stay with the full story. Her name was Emily Carter, and she was 26 years old. Emily lived in Columbus, Ohio, in a small apartment she shared with a roommate she barely knew. The rent was affordable only because nothing else about the place was special. Thin walls, old appliances, a living room that never quite felt like home. She worked as a retail associate at a large clothing store in a busy mall. The job was physically tiring and emotionally draining in quiet ways. Long shifts on her feet, smiling at customers who didn't see her, folding the same shirts over and over while thinking about money. Her paycheck was modest and predictable, just enough to survive, never enough to feel safe. Emily wasn't careless with money. She didn't shop for fun, she didn't travel, she didn't live extravagantly. But she also didn't save. Not because she didn't want to, but because saving felt pointless. Every time she tried, the amount felt embarrassing. $10, $15, sometimes less. She'd look at the number and think, why bother? This won't change anything. So she stopped trying. Emily believed that progress required big moves, big income, big discipline, big sacrifices. And because she couldn't make any of those happen, she stayed frozen. Her days blended together. Work, commute, dinner, sleep. Every few weeks, something small would go wrong. A higher utility bill, shoes wearing out faster than expected, a medical copay, and whatever tiny savings she had tried to build would disappear instantly. That cycle taught her a dangerous lesson. Starting small is useless. Emily carried that belief quietly. She didn't complain much. She didn't talk about money with friends. She just assumed this was how life worked at her level. One night, after a long closing shift, she sat on her bed scrolling on her phone, watching people talk about saving, investing, and building wealth early. It felt like watching a different species. She closed the app and stared at the ceiling. She didn't need to be rich. She just wanted to stop feeling stuck. What Emily didn't realize yet was that her problem wasn't her income. It was her definition of progress. And the rule that would change her life wouldn't ask her to do more. It would ask her to do less, but consistently. Emily's invisible problem wasn't low pay. It was waiting. She was waiting for a version of her life that didn't exist yet, a higher salary, fewer problems, a moment when saving would finally feel worth it. Until then, she told herself, starting didn't make sense. That belief kept her frozen. Every attempt to save ended the same way. She'd put aside a small amount, look at it a few days later, and feel disappointed. The number didn't impress her. It didn't feel powerful. And when something small went wrong, she'd use the money and confirm what she already believed. See, it didn't matter. The breaking point came after a routine doctor's visit. Nothing serious, just a checkup and a prescription. The bill wasn't huge, but it arrived at the wrong time. Emily opened her banking app and felt that familiar drop in her stomach. Again. She paid it, watched her balance fall, and sat there longer than necessary, staring at the screen. It wasn't the amount that hurt, it was the pattern. She realized she had been living in a loop where nothing could improve because she refused to start unless improvement was guaranteed. She was demanding results before action. That night, Emily wrote something down for the first time in months. Not a budget, not a plan, just a sentence. If I can't start small, I'll never start. She thought about all the advice she'd ignored because it felt unrealistic. Save hundreds, invest early, think long term. None of it felt built for someone like her. But buried in one article was a line that stopped her. Start with 1%. Not 10, not 20, 1. 1% of her paycheck was laughably small. It felt almost insulting. And yet, it felt possible. Emily realized something uncomfortable. She wasn't afraid of saving too little. She was afraid of confronting how little she believed in herself. Starting with 1% meant accepting that progress could be invisible at first, that change wouldn't feel dramatic, that the early stage would be boring. But it also meant something freeing. She wouldn't need motivation, she wouldn't need confidence, she wouldn't need sacrifice. She would just need to begin. That was the moment her thinking shifted. Not because she felt ready, but because she understood that readiness was never coming. Emily decided to treat the rule exactly as it was meant to be treated. Not as a strategy, not as a challenge, as permission. The 1% rule was simple. Save just 1% of your income no matter how small it feels. Do it automatically and never stop. Emily calculated the number. It barely moved the screen. She almost laughed. But that was the point. 1% didn't hurt. It didn't require sacrifice. It didn't demand discipline. So she stopped negotiating. She set up an automatic transfer for the day her paycheck arrived. The money moved before she could think about it, before she could judge it, before she could tell herself it wasn't enough. She named the account something quiet in her head. Started. Not savings, not emergency, just started. The first weeks felt underwhelming. Nothing changed in her life, nothing felt different. The balance grew slowly, almost invisibly. But something important happened. She didn't touch it. Because touching it would mean admitting that starting small had been a mistake, and for the first time, she wanted to prove herself wrong. After a month, she checked the account. The number was still small, but it was real. It existed because of consistency, not effort. That realization rewired something in her mind. Saving no longer felt like a performance. It felt like a habit forming quietly in the background. After 3 months, she didn't increase the percentage. She waited. She let the habit settle into her identity, someone who saves, even a little. That patience mattered. When a small raise came later that year, Emily didn't change her lifestyle. She simply adjusted the 1% upward, not because she felt rich, but because the rule told her what to do. The beauty of the rule was that it removed pressure. No deadlines, no guilt, no comparison, just repetition. Emily realized that most people fail at saving not because they lack money, but because they demand motivation from a habit that should be automatic. The 1% rule didn't try to impress her. It tried to keep her moving. And movement, even slow, was something she had been missing for a long time.
The change didn't arrive as excitement. It arrived as identity. Emily stopped thinking of herself as someone who couldn't save. That story quietly dissolved. She didn't announce it. She didn't celebrate it. She just noticed that month after month, the habit stayed. The money moved. The account grew. She didn't interfere. And because the amount was small, her life didn't feel tighter. There was no sense of sacrifice, no resentment toward the habit. It existed without friction, and that's why it survived. After 6 months, something subtle happened. Emily started paying attention. Not obsessively, not anxiously, just noticing. She checked the account occasionally and felt something unfamiliar. Trust. Not in the number, but in herself. She was doing something consistently, even when it felt boring. That mattered more than the balance. When a slow month came, she didn't pause the transfer. When an unexpected expense appeared, she didn't touch the account. The habit had become protected, not by rules, but by pride. Later that year, Emily picked up extra shifts during the holiday season. Her paycheck grew temporarily. And without hesitation, the 1% grew too. She didn't feel it, but she saw it. That's when she understood the real power of the rule. It scales. When income goes up, the habit grows. When income goes down, the habit survives. No drama, no decisions. Eventually, Emily increased the percentage, slowly. Not because someone told her to, but because the habit had earned her confidence. 2% didn't feel scary. Then 3. She never jumped. She climbed. Her savings didn't transform her life overnight, but her relationship with money transformed completely. She stopped feeling stuck. She stopped waiting for permission. She stopped believing progress had to be impressive to be real. Emily realized something deeply important. Starting small wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. Because the habit that begins easily is the habit that lasts, and lasting habits change lives. Emily never woke up one day and felt rich. There was no dramatic moment where her account balance suddenly changed her life. No applause, no visible proof of success. But something far more important had shifted. She trusted herself. For years, Emily believed progress had to feel big to be real. If it didn't impress her, it didn't count. That belief kept her frozen, waiting for a future version of herself with more money, more confidence, more permission. The 1% rule broke that lie. It taught her that progress doesn't need to be loud, it needs to be repeatable. Saving 1% didn't fix her problems, it didn't protect her from every surprise, it didn't remove stress from her life. What it did was far more powerful. It proved that she could start and keep going. And once that proof existed, everything else became possible. Emily stopped measuring success by outcomes. She started measuring it by consistency. Some months were better than others. Some were tight. Life still happened, but the habit stayed. Quietly, reliably. That habit became the foundation for every future decision. When she earned more, she didn't panic about how to manage it. The system already existed. When she felt uncertain, she didn't freeze. She trusted the process she had built. The moral of her story is simple, but often ignored. You don't need to start big. You need to start now. Waiting for the right time is just another way of staying stuck. Emily didn't wait anymore. She started small, she stayed consistent, and slowly her life began to move forward. Not because 1% changed her finances overnight, but because it changed her direction. Before you leave, like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this message reach people who feel stuck because they think they're starting too small. And remember this advice: small beginnings, repeated daily, are unstoppable.